I was at the closing attorney's office signing the final documents when my phone started buzzing with photos from the family group chat. My parents were hosting what looked like a large backyard barbecue at their house, the sprawling ranch-style home where I'd grown up. Except it wasn't their house. It was mine. Mom, family planning meeting. So excited to share the expansion plans with everyone. This house is going to be amazing when we're done. Brother Jason, can't wait to see the blueprints. About time we upgraded this place into a real family compound. Aunt Sandra, your parents have been talking about this for months. So generous of them to make room for everyone. I looked up from my phone at the closing attorney, Rebecca Martinez, who was organizing the signed documents into neat stacks. Everything okay? Rebecca asked. My family is currently at my house planning renovations they don't know they can't make, I said, showing her the messages. She raised an eyebrow. The house you literally just sold 5 minutes ago? That's the one. Rebecca smiled slightly. This is going to be awkward when they find out. You have no idea. I'd purchased my childhood home 3 years ago when my parents hit financial trouble. Dad's business had failed, they were facing foreclosure, and the bank was ready to seize the property. I'd bought it for $385,000, paying off their mortgage and letting them stay rent-free while they got back on their feet. The agreement was simple. I owned the house. They could live there as long as they needed. No rent, just cover utilities. When they were financially stable again, we'd discuss options. I never told the extended family. My parents asked me not to. They were embarrassed about needing help from their youngest daughter. So everyone assumed they still owned the home and I didn't correct them. That was 3 years ago. Since then, my parents' finances had improved significantly. Dad had a new job, Mom had gone back to work, and they'd paid off their other debts. We discussed their options. Buy the house back from me at current market value, or I'd sell it and help them find something more affordable. They'd chosen neither. Instead, they'd apparently decided the house was still theirs and started planning major renovations. My phone buzzed again. Mom, the contractor is coming next week to give us estimates. We're adding a master suite addition, expanding the kitchen and converting the garage into a guest house. Room for everyone when you visit. Jason, Dad and I are thinking about that pool we always wanted to. Really make this place special. Dad, we've earned this. Time to enjoy the home we've built our life in. The home I'd built my savings account around. The home I just sold to a lovely retired couple for $520,000. Market value after 3 years of appreciation. I scrolled further and found more details. Mom, Jason's going to move into the new master suite with his family. Sandra, you and Bill can use the guest house when you visit. We're finally making this house everything it should be. Aunt Sandra, how are you affording all this? Contractors aren't cheap. Dad, we've been saving. Plus, the house has equity we can borrow against. This is our home. We can invest in it however we want. I felt my stomach drop. They were planning to take out a home equity loan. On a house they didn't own. On a house that was, as of 10 minutes ago, legally owned by Gerald and Patricia Foster, a couple in their late 60s looking to downsize from their 2-story colonial. I finished signing the last document. Rebecca stamped it official. Congratulations, she said. The Fosters should receive their keys from their attorney within the hour. They're planning to take possession next week, correct? Yes. I told them the current occupants would need a few days to make arrangements. The current occupants being your parents who think they still own the house? Exactly. Rebecca handed me my copy of the closing documents. You'll need to inform them soon. The Fosters have every legal right to take possession next Monday. I nodded. I know. I tried to discuss this with my parents last month. They kept saying they were too busy to talk about it. I sent them 3 emails outlining the sale timeline. They never responded. Well, they can't ignore it anymore. I drove from the attorney's office directly to my parents' house. My former house, now the Foster's house. The backyard was packed with relatives. My parents had set up tables, a grill was smoking, and someone had erected a large whiteboard showing architectural sketches of proposed additions. I parked on the street and walked through the side gate. Jason spotted me first. Why, you made it. Come see the plans for the renovation. I approached the whiteboard. The sketches showed a massive master suite addition, an expanded kitchen eating into the backyard, and a converted garage. Estimated cost according to the notes, $175,000. Impressive, I said neutrally. Mom hurried over, beaming. Isn't it wonderful? We're finally going to make this house everything we've dreamed of. Jason and his family will move in, we'll have room for everyone to visit, and the property value will skyrocket. About that, I started. And the best part, Dad interrupted, joining us with a beer in hand, is that we're using the home equity. The house has appreciated so much in the last few years, we can borrow what we need and still have plenty of equity left over. Dad, you can't take out a home equity loan on this house. Of course we can. We've owned it for 30 years. Well, technically 27, but we paid off the mortgage with. He paused, his smile faltering slightly. Well, that's water under the bridge now. You didn't pay off the mortgage, I said quietly. I did. 3 years ago. When you were facing foreclosure. The conversations around us began to quiet. Relatives were turning to listen. Mom's smile was strained. Maya, we don't need to discuss family finances at a barbecue. We need to discuss them before you hire contractors for a house you don't own. Jason laughed uncomfortably. Maya, what are you talking about? This is Mom and Dad's house. I pulled out my phone and opened my email, finding the message I'd sent my parents 3 weeks ago. I held it up so Jason could see. Subject: Final notice 1847 Maple Street sale closing. Sent May 2nd. It says, Mom and Dad, this is the 3rd time I'm reaching out about the house sale. Closing is scheduled for May 23rd at 2 p.m. You have 2 weeks to make arrangements to purchase the property from me at market value, or the sale to the Fosters will proceed as planned. Please respond ASAP. Mom waved her hand dismissively. We've been busy, Maya. We'll talk about it later. There is no later. I closed on the sale 3 hours ago. Gerald and Patricia Foster are now the legal owners of 1847 Maple Street. They take possession Monday. The backyard went completely silent. Even the grill seemed to stop sizzling. That's not funny, Jason said. I pulled the closing documents from my bag. These are from Rebecca Martinez, the closing attorney. Sale price, $520,000. Seller, Maya Chin. Buyers, Gerald and Patricia Foster. Closing date, today. Possession date, Monday, May 29th. Dad grabbed the papers, his face going from confused to pale. This can't be legal. This is our house. It's been my house for 3 years. I bought it when the bank was going to foreclose. I paid $385,000 to clear your mortgage and property liens. You've lived here rent-free since then while you rebuilt your finances. Aunt Sandra pushed forward. Wait, you've owned their house for 3 years? They've been living in your property? Yes. I offered to let them buy it back at current market value. They declined. I told them I'd need to sell it eventually. They didn't respond. So I sold it. Mom's face crumpled. But where are we supposed to go? We've lived here for 30 years. I've been asking you to discuss that for 6 months. You ignored every message, every email, every attempt to plan. You were too busy designing renovations to a property you don't own. Jason was scrolling through the documents on his phone. I'd texted him the same information I'd sent our parents. The emails are all here. May 2nd, April 18th, March 25th. Maya sent multiple notices. You guys never responded. Dad's hands were shaking. We thought she was joking. Maya doesn't buy houses. She does computer security stuff or something. We didn't think she actually had the money to buy our house. I run a cybersecurity consulting firm that generates approximately $750,000 annually, I said calmly. I have for 5 years. I tried to tell you about it at every family gathering. You always changed the subject or dismissed it as technical stuff. I've also purchased 4 rental properties as investments. This house was my 5th property purchase. 4 rental properties? Mom's voice was faint. Yes. I invited you to the open house for my first rental 3 years ago, right after I bought this house. You said you were too busy. I sent photos of each property when I closed on them. You never commented. Uncle Bill spoke up from near the grill. So the renovations, the home equity loan. Impossible, I said. They don't own the property. They can't borrow against equity they don't have. But I called a contractor. Mom protested. He's coming Wednesday to give estimates. Then you should cancel that appointment. The new owners have their own contractor. They're planning modest updates. New paint, updated fixtures, refinished floors. Nothing structural. Jason looked at his phone, then at our parents. You really didn't know? Maya sent 3 emails. With read receipts. You both opened them. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. We thought she was being dramatic, Dad finally admitted. Maya's always been sensitive about helping out. We figured she was trying to pressure us into buying the house back from her just to prove some point about being successful. The point, I said, my voice harder now, was that I own the house. Not you. And if you wanted to keep living here, you needed to either purchase it from me or communicate about alternatives. Instead, you planned a $175,000 renovation to property you don't own, tried to take out loans against equity that isn't yours, and invited the whole family to celebrate expansions that can never happen. Aunt Sandra was reading over Dad's shoulder. The Fosters take possession Monday? That's 6 days from now. Yes. I told my parents this in writing 3 weeks ago. I told them verbally 2 months ago. I've been crystal clear about the timeline. Where are we supposed to go? Mom asked, tears forming. This is our home. I've been asking you that for half a year. You refused to discuss it. I have a rental property available in Riverside. 3 bedrooms, smaller yard, $1,800 monthly rent. I offered it to you at $1,400 as family rate. You never responded. Riverside. Jason made a face. That's across town. That's not even a nice neighborhood. It's a perfectly fine neighborhood. And it's what's available in your price range. Unless you'd like to buy something which requires a down payment, good credit, and stable income. Dad squared his shoulders. We have good credit. Our finances are solid now. Then you can work with a realtor to find something. I can recommend several. But you have 6 days to move out of this house. 6 days. Mom cried. We can't pack 30 years in 6 days. You've had 3 years to make a plan. You chose to ignore the situation. Uncle Bill stepped forward. Maya, be reasonable. They're your parents. Surely you can give them more time, work something out with the new owners. The Fosters have been living with their daughter for 4 months while waiting to close on this house. They've sold their previous home. They're scheduled to move in Monday. I'm not asking them to delay because my parents refuse to face reality. Jason ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. We had plans. I was going to move my family in, we were going to expand. Plans based on a fantasy, I interrupted. None of you asked who actually owned this house. You all just assumed. When I tried to clarify, I was dismissed, ignored, or accused of being dramatic. Because we didn't think you were serious. Mom said, you're our daughter. Daughters don't sell their parents' homes out from under them. Daughters don't buy their parents' homes to save them from foreclosure only to have those parents pretend it never happened, I countered. I rescued you from financial disaster. I asked for nothing in return except acknowledgement of reality. You couldn't even give me that. The relatives were quiet now, looking uncomfortable. Some were gathering their things, clearly wanting to escape the tension. Dad's voice was quiet. What do you want us to do? Pack. Find temporary housing. Work with a realtor if you want to buy. Rent if that's more realistic. Figure out a plan, which is what I've been asking you to do for 6 months. And if we can't find something by Monday? There are extended stay hotels. The Riverside rental I mentioned. Mom's sister in Portland offered to let you stay with her last year. Maybe that's still an option. You've really thought this through, Jason said bitterly. Really planned how to throw our parents out on the street. I've spent 6 months trying to help them plan. They refused. I can't force adults to face reality, but I can move forward with my own financial decisions. I needed to sell this property. I gave them first right of refusal, multiple opportunities to buy it back, and months of notice. They ignored all of it. I looked at my parents, feeling exhausted. I tried to help you. I did help you. I saved this house from foreclosure and let you live here free for 3 years. But you can't acknowledge that help because it means admitting I'm successful, that I have money, that your youngest daughter bailed you out. Your pride is so strong that you'd rather plan fantasy renovations than face the truth. Mom was crying openly now. Dad just looked defeated. I gathered my things. The Fosters will be here Monday at 10 a.m. with their moving truck. Please have your belongings out by then. If you need help finding movers or storage, let me know. But the sale is final. The house is theirs. I walked back through the side gate, leaving the silent barbecue behind me. No one followed. Monday morning at 9:45 a.m., I arrived at 1847 Maple Street to meet the Fosters. My parents' cars were gone from the driveway. The house looked empty. Gerald and Patricia pulled up at 9:55, their faces bright with excitement. "We can't wait to get started," Patricia said. "This house is going to be perfect for us." We walked through together. My parents had taken their furniture but left the house clean. No damage, no mess. On the kitchen counter sat an envelope with my name on it. Inside was a short note in my mother's handwriting. "We're staying with Sandra for now. We don't understand why you did this, but we've moved out as requested. Don't expect us at family events for a while." No apology. No acknowledgement. Just hurt feelings and blame. I handed the keys to Gerald and Patricia. "Welcome home." 3 months later, my parents rented a 2-bedroom apartment in a less expensive part of town. Jason and his family stayed in their own place. Turns out the Master Suite edition was his idea, not theirs. The family barbecue planning session had been his attempt to pressure our parents into making room for him without having to pay for housing. Mom sends occasional terse text messages about grandchildren. Dad doesn't contact me at all. Aunt Sandra told me they tell people they decided to downsize and wanted something more manageable. They never mention that they lived in my house for 3 years. They never mention the foreclosure I saved them from. They never mention that I tried for 6 months to help them plan their next move. Gerald and Patricia Foster send me Christmas cards. They love the house. They refinished the hardwood floors, updated the kitchen with quartz countertops, and planted a garden in the backyard. They send photos sometimes. The house looks better than it ever did when my parents lived there. I still have the closing documents in my filing cabinet, next to the purchase agreement from 3 years ago showing how I saved that house from foreclosure. Sometimes I take them out and look at them, remembering the family barbecue where everyone planned renovations to a property they didn't own. My parents built their dreams on land I'd purchased. When reality arrived, they blamed me for their fantasies' collapse. But I'm not sorry. I gave them every chance. They chose pride over planning. Now they rent an apartment and pretend it was their choice. And I own 4 rental properties that generate $156,000 annually in passive income. Sometimes the daughter who does computer stuff knows more about real estate than the parents who lived in the same house for 30 years. They just never bothered to ask.